Hello, I am Shireen Khan, and welcome to Talent and Talks, a talent mindset dialogue series by the Economic Times in collaboration with LinkedIn. Over the past few years, the world of work has undergone a profound transformation. Advances in AI, automation, cloud technologies, and digital innovation have reshaped not only how organizations operate, but also how they think about talent. Today, success is no longer defined solely by job titles, years of experience, or traditional career paths. Instead, organizations are now increasingly focusing on skills, adaptability, continuous learning, and the ability to create impact in an environment of constant change. As businesses navigate shifting workforce transformations and expectations, rapid technology disruption, and growing pressure to innovate, talent management has evolved into a far more strategic function. The conversation today is about building future ready capabilities, developing leaders who can thrive amid uncertainty, and creating cultures where people can learn, grow, and contribute continuously. This is exactly what this series seeks to explore. Through candid conversations with business and talent leaders, this series examines mindset shifts, challenges, and opportunities shaping the future of talent, leadership, and work. Today, we are very delighted to be joined by two leaders who bring unique perspectives on this evolving landscape. Please join me in welcoming Praveena Bhimavarapu, Country Head Maximus India, and Ankit Khanna, Director Talent Solutions South India, LinkedIn. Hello to both of you and welcome to our show. So, Ankit, now over to you for the fireside chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Shireen. Pravina, welcome to this chat. And today I'm a lot of the audience who will be watching this would love to kind of hear and learn from you. As somebody who leads Maximus India. I'll start by my first question. Is today organizations are fighting for top talent, and when they're doing that, I think the definition of what is top talent also keeps on changing. So
Right.
today, for you, I would want to kind of get your views. Is has that definition evolved beyond just strong technical capabilities to include things like learning agility, purpose, collaboration, etc.? And how important are these things for you when you kind of look at top talent?
So that's a very good question. In fact, I think every leader, my peers would echo with that sentiment is that it's no longer the written test, the coding test, and which college you came from. I mean, it does matter, but at least that's not the only thing. So the performer for top talent is their apart from the IQ, their AQ, which is the adaptability quotient. And in 4 years, if we take an engineering degree, from the day or the year one to the year four, there's so many things taught, but the relevancy is missed. So many of the organizations, they're trying to shift their, domains way into the fourth and third year, and they go early, try to train them early, catch them early. And then there are new interventions. Like earlier, I remember we would go administer a test, conduct a group discussion, and then an interview, and then, we
Mm.
select. But there are organizations who are not relying on just that. When they're hiring, they're actually asking folks to give a video, resume, which is basically, again, trying to beat the system of technology itself. Like,
Mm.
interviewer is an AI bot, and then that one who's giving is an AI, right? So how do you
Mm.
differentiate that? So it's a new skill that all of us have to learn. The adaptability quotient is required both from the folks who are trying to join, as well as the leaders who actually are trying to hire. And the definition of years of experience qualifying to a certain band and a role is no longer valid, in my opinion, because you
Mhm.
can really learn so fast. It's dependent more on you than just the institution that you belong. So there are leadership skills that we are trying to hire for way in the entry level roles, and I see that many of them are leading with work and with output. They're no longer interested in theory. So do I have a profile? Yeah, somebody who is really interested, not with the just the IQ, but the AQ. And AQ is trying to adapt to lot many different changes, not just tech and not just a company.
So I think what I heard is people's ability to adapt, and in a world we have to continuously learn and unlearn. I mean, when you're kind of hiring people, what if somebody, if a potential candidate had to ask you that what is the kind of mindset that would actually help that person thrive in the environment for which you hire, what would that one mindset be?
So if somebody is looking for comfort, this is not the place to come. That's one thing that I'll tell, because
Hmm.
we are in the process of unlearning and new learning, and all that is very common. But we get very jittery, we get very anxious, because you may not get to the result soon enough, or you whatever your expectation was not the same when the results is out. So change, sometimes it takes time to get settled. So if a person comes and tells me that they're looking for comfort, definitely Maximus India is not the place, because we do change a lot from the time when you join to to 3 months. It's not the 30, 60, 90-day plan anymore, because I don't
Hmm.
think people are interested to see that. While there's a formal way of induction, but we are putting folks right into a challenging environment, and we are testing them in the beginning itself, that whether they're able to cope up with the expectation. For me, behavior, meaning team, is everything. Employee at the end, no matter how much technology I have, if the people behind the tech are not passionate about it, it is difficult to keep inspiring them all the time. You can give a lot
Yes.
of goodies, you can give a lot of other benefits, but it all fades down. So keeping them excited is my job, but making sure that they have the will to get excited and do something. So that I use uh, a line, skill versus will. You
Mm-hmm.
can get a lot of the skill from college and their previous experiences, but their will to do a certain way is very, very essential at Maximus India. I would rather have someone show more interest in learning something new upfront, and give them and take a chance on that investment. So these are the decisions that I feel that usually were going through cookie cutter approach, but I'm changing many of that in my organization, and I see that it is very considered as bold, and a little bit I'd say just say bold, but I,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
I think it's just about taking your chance, because we don't have that much time to adapt.
Yes, I think I completely agree with you. I think letting people experiment and fail fast is super important for innovation.
Yeah.
And from that, I'll come to my second question. That obviously you attract really high quality talent, and you need really high quality talent, and that is something which I think there's a intensive competition for high quality talent with all of these GCCs coming up. How important is employer value proposition and talent branding to attract the right kind of people for an organization? And also, if you can share like what you've done in Maximus India as well on that.
There's so much competition. How do you retain? How do you actually ensure that people are happy at the end of the day? Is connecting to very core fundamental aspect of the joy or happiness, or content that one gets when they get something done, or when they
Mhm.
get something as a reward, and a lot of other things. Based on neuroscience, I can understand that there are different ways to excite different talent. And when we did that first due diligence on what an EVP would do, we actually went very thoughtful about that whole approach, and we went with that aspect, is that it will take time, sometime between, like, 3 to 6 months, but we will figure out who we are. And rather than trying to be everybody, I would want to be who I am, and how I want to put my foot forward, my brand forward, and then I'm authentic about it. Because you keep emulating somebody else because someone else has gotten a better success, the so-called success, but you're going to fail if you cannot own that. So authenticity is based on certain values which don't fail, which actually are the strong pillars of an organization. So we did a survey. We understood, what our employees were talking about. We did a survey of what market intelligence is talking about. So in a nutshell, I think more preparedness with the EVP exercise that brought us to some reality check that what we should do, and acknowledging that and then doing something about it is what I would say is more meaningful than just following because it's a herd mentality to do things which are more famous or more talked about, but the sustenance of it and how they are evolving. So we cannot really live on reputation and laurels all the time. So we have to constantly create the new laurel and the new reputation. So
Yes.
EVP is essential. EVP is non-negotiable because we have so much of choice, and the cities that we see grow actually will face a problem soon if they don't own, what the EVP actually stands for.
Right, absolutely. And I think I agree that what you talked about, that you need to have a unique, authentic EVP, because it's not just about attracting everybody, but attracting the right kind of people who resonate with your EVP.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great learning. I know you kind of talked about, earlier about learning, etc. And, that's where my other question comes, that in today's world, and you kind of touched on that skills keep on changing, right? And how do you kind of focus on developing and upskilling talent internally continuously? And why is this culture of continuous learning becoming so critical for GCCs as well?
The basic thing is that the survival of the fittest is the one thing that drives us to learn very fast so that we outperform the other. And that has become a second nature. It's practiced so much that I don't need to be training that aspect. I think by and large, you will actually have a lot of us quick to respond when we have to learn. Now, to take that as the background and the foundation leadership here, I have realized that you don't store these programs only for certain bands, certain levels, certain departments, but we have to grow together. I usually see that in a startup where everyone does everything, right? Because at the end of the day, they will actually own something out of the bigger bigger goal for the company. That gets missed in GCCs, especially because we are so far from our parent company. We are not directly, talking about revenue. We are not talking about various things that are, occupy 9 out of 10, focus areas in our parent location. So trying to bridge that gap in terms of, where I need to focus. So a lot of design thinking is put into my teams now, and vision boarding. It is not just for leaders, it is for engineers, it is for our support teams. uh, Generally we'll say HR, finance, procurement, legal. That's like peripheral, but I say that I take everybody forward. And even in the groups where you do not have a lot of technical folks, I see a lot of technology happening there by the teams. So
Hmm.
democratizing that aspect of learning to a unit of that one employee in one group is something that I have introduced. People have realized that they get judged less because it's not that you failed or you succeeded, but how much effort have you put in that particular event or particular aspect of delivery. And our KPIs and metrics have changed. And the aspect of there's nothing free, there's nothing like free lunch. So we have to be cognizant about the time that we spend away from our families and our near and dear when we come to work. So making the best out of that time. So that aspect of mindset, instilling that thought process is going a long way.
Agree, absolutely. And what's so heartening to hear is, in a lot of organizations, this learning is mostly a L&D or HR driven this thing, but ultimately it's for leadership to drive it in the organization for it to be successful.
Yeah.
Coming to my next question is, as you kind of look ahead into the future, what are the most critical skills and capabilities that you are investing in for the next phase of transformation in your organization? And how important is internal mobility in ensuring that, as these skills change, talent can kind of move into these new opportunities rather than always hiring externally?
So probably it's the right question in the current situations where a lot of companies, they're pausing in their hiring because they anticipate AI trying to do a lot. Instead of the teams, vibe coding, in general, the tools and platforms. So it starts in some corner. Usually, I'll see it's a very small group that actually has that vision or outlook, and it doesn't percolate to the entire company. It takes time.
Hmm.
And there's also because everybody's not equipped to understand that. So just because I'll talk, it doesn't mean that somebody should understand. So there's a way we are learning to talk about it in a way where it's understood. So um, internal mobility as such, it's already happening. At least what I've seen in my past 10 years. I'm an example. I've changed roles in my previous organizations every 2 years. Some were, driven by organizational changes. Some were personal, choices. But I found that the companies actually do that. But it's a lot of resistance within the employee mindset because probably they have not had that good experience in their previous attempts, or something was missed in the transition. In general, AI is going to change a lot of that landscape where my internal jobs will be taken by AI. So it's not that, I'm trying to do with people to people, but it is people to machines and bots and, other automation. So the bigger question is, what will I do with my teams, and how will I train them?
No. So it was so interesting to hear. And with that, I think, I'll close with my last, question to you, which is, if you are advising the next generation of leaders who are, building their careers and who are moving into this new world of AI, everything is changing. What mindset would you encourage them to build so that they remain relevant as the world of work continues to change so quickly?
So leadership for me is at all different levels. For me, I classify them into three, which is basically your, first basic foundational levels leadership, first 1 to 10 years, and then from 10 to whatever, you're strengthening your leadership skills. And then comes transformational, where you're chiseled. So in each phase, what used to take 10 years, right? I think it's shrunk. So anybody is fixated on that, this is the path to the next level and this is the path I will go. I think that itself is to be first abandoned. So growth mindset, growth versus fixed mindset. So we talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
Even in the growth mindset, the amount of time it used to change is shrinking. And for me, the best thing is to adapt yourself and, first know your, industry, know the landscape, spend some more time on learning, spend some more time in asking questions, working and spending time with not your peers and your leaders. Maybe, go to various other forums and, we say everybody says, curiosity, be curious.
Thanks, Pravina, and it was such an enriching discussion. I'm sure our audience learned a lot. I myself, I think I'm taking back a lot. I learned a lot as well. So thank you.
Most welcome, and it's my honor to be here. Thank you for having me. Absolutely loved.
I agree totally with Ankit there that our audience definitely would have a lot to take away from this conversation. And thank you to both you, Pravina, and Ankit for the wonderful conversation. Now, a few powerful themes have emerged today in this conversation. How, in a rapidly changing world, success is no longer defined by IQ or technical expertise alone, but increasingly organizations are also looking for an adaptability quotient, as Pravina talked about, the ability to unlearn, learn, and evolve as technology, business, and workforce expectations continue to shift. We also heard a very important distinction between skill and will. Skills can be developed, but mindset, curiosity, and the willingness to embrace change are often what sets individuals apart. And organizations are now moving away from that cookie cutter talent model. Leadership, continuous learning, and adaptability are now slowly becoming the critical differentiators. And finally, the conversation around the reinforcing of the growing importance of a strong EVP. And in a competitive talent market, culture, purpose, and growth opportunities matter just as much as the role itself. And also the importance of design thinking for all roles and not just the technical ones. And as India's GCC system continues to evolve, the organizations that succeed will be the ones that build adaptable talent, foster continuous growth and learning, and create environments where people can do their best work. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Talent and Talks. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.